Fantastic to see you back here. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good morning. For us, it's morning. Oh, actually, I don't know if it's morning or afternoon with the jet lag. But it's good to be here. Melbourne is one of the destinations we're always looking forward to come because there's so much buzz around Formula One. And yeah, we love it.
We had an interview last night with Lewis and George, and they expressed how they wished that Melbourne was still the first Formula One race on the calendar. Do you share similar sentiments?
Yeah, because when I started at Mercedes, that was where everything started. We had all our photo shootings on the beach. We're here a few days earlier, so you were able to surf or enjoy the city. And now we are literally just in and out, which is unfortunate. I arrived yesterday night, back Sunday out, so there's not a lot of time in between.
Now, you have an unusual resume, if you will, for a team boss. Rumors have it you had a background in finance. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate. I tried to make it as a racing driver, but never really had the financing and the resource behind it, and decided, okay, if I can't do that, then I'm going to start early in finance, dropped out of uni, and over the years set up a venture capital company and then private equity, and then actually out of nowhere started to invest in motorsport companies. And the first one was Williams, a Formula One team, and one day to the other, the CEO quit, and I was a non-exec, and they said, well, you got to run it now. I said, I never run anything. I just complain about people running things badly. So I did that, got a T-shirt with my name and ran it and loved it. And this is when Mercedes came back to me and said, can you explain to us why Williams is more successful than the Mercedes Formula One team? And this is how I've ended up with the team.
So you basically said, I'm the reason that they're more successful and you should take me.
Yeah, I think if you say it that bluntly, you're probably not going to get the job. But how it was, he said, I'd like to stay in Williams because I'm a shareholder, and that isn't possible at Mercedes. And they said, funny that you say that. It's actually possible. You can buy the shares of the Abu Dhabi Sovereign Fund that just exited. So I'm super proud today being in a joint venture with Mercedes. It's rarely that they do that.
In the beginning, the finance that you talk about, is that as ruthless as you're finding motorsport is now? Is it all about competition in finance? Are there some similarities that you dragged with you from that industry into your current role?
I don't know if ruthless is the word. I think when you come to a certain stage, it's getting quite tough. Formula One today is a political bomb field. This is how you say, minefield. I think there's so much going on politically around the regulations where you're trying to extract the best for your team whilst not falling in traps that are everywhere. And finance was the same. I remember a situation where we were about to IPO a company. Literally the next day, we were closing our books, and this is when one investor, anchor investor, said, I'm not paying the price, I want 20% less, and basically the whole IPO collapsed. So this is a little bit similar to what Formula One is.
A less than ideal situation. You mentor lots of people in the organization. If you had to mentor an aspiring team principal, what attributes would you highly recommend that they had?
Yeah, it's a difficult one because I'm in desperate search for one that finally can replace me, and I'm, taking it easier. I think you need to have been in a car and have the understanding what the drivers feel. Also, on the other side, what the engineers say, and be able to translate between the two. And then, have a finance background to know how you run the team, do the key accounting with the sponsors, and at the same time lead the team. So overall, a little bit of everything, but not too much of each of these.
Do you think that skill set that a modern team principal requires has changed in the time you've been in Formula One, or has the basic skill set stayed the same from running the business side of things?
Back in the day, team principal was the all-encompassing title. The teams had a size of a few hundred maybe, and the team principal normally was the founder, the chief executive officer, the team manager, all of these in one. And this is where this terminology came. Because it's highly unusual when you compare it to other sports teams. There is a CEO, there is a general director, there's a coach, there's a manager. And in our sport, it's all in ones. But it's changing. I think I'm one of the very few dinosaur team principals that are pretty much like in the old days, the Frank Williams or Ron Dennis. It's been more and more taken over by engineers that look after really only the sporting side of the team and not all the commercial activities or the politics. So it's just two of us remain there.
So as a leader of the team, and it's a team full of highly motivated people, how do you keep them all pulling in the same direction? Of course, you need them to go off on their tangents with creativity and design, but how do you keep them all with one focus and one goal?
Most important, and this is valid for every organization and also conventional business, is to define the common objective. And if you're able to define an objective for everyone in the company, this is where you pull everybody along. Now, in our sport, it's quite easy. We all want to win races and championships, and our salaries depend on it, and the bonuses, and so it's much easier rather than just hang it up on car sales or EBITDA. But what I want to establish is a real understanding of what is it that drives the individual. I can't design an aerodynamic surface, but I know everything about the head of aerodynamics. And if I'm able with my 10 or so reports to understand what is it that really drives them, I can build a framework around it to achieve it. And the same, I encourage everybody then on that level to look further down in their department, organization. What is it you can do? Because you know, when you're leaders of an organization, all of us are only thinking about ourselves. What is it that we want to earn? What's our next career step? What car do I want to drive? Which holiday destinations do I want to go? How can I afford the next house? And we forget old Formula One cars.
So pretty.
Nice. They're beautiful, but they put lots of oil on the track.
And in the engines as well.
So, exactly. So, can you hear me well? Yeah. So, I'm trying to really build those frameworks, because promoting someone because that position is important is a possibility. Trying to structure payment system that is motivating for them is possible. Or giving somebody more time to work from home, which is not something I encourage a lot, but if somebody has a family situation where this is more important, I'll find a way. What kind of car scheme is that person on? Maybe the wife enjoys driving an AMG car to the kindergarten, so maybe put them on a good car scheme. And et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I take really a lot of time and enjoyment in finding out what is it that drives you? What is it that I need to achieve for you?
Lewis and George both last night reiterated exactly that your interest in the human being that's working for you is quite extraordinary. And the other thing that Lewis mentioned was how proud he is of the work that the both of you have done in the diversity and introducing diversity not only into Formula One, but more importantly into your team. Obviously, that's something that is very close to heart to Lewis, and he's very, very passionate about. Was this something that you thought this directional change would happen when you joined the team, or is this something that's happened along the way that you're really proud to be focused on and introducing?
When I joined, D&I wasn't really that much on the map culturally in a company. I've been raised in quite a diverse environment. I was lucky enough to go to an international school. My two best friends, one was a religious Jew, the other one a Palestinian who lost things in Palestine. And I was part of those discussions, and that was really, really valuable. So, but you know, when I jumped into the adventure with Mercedes, it's all around performance. And with Lewis, he opened up our eyes to much more, the real human causes. And there's things I'm sure that will resonate with you. He said things to me like, how often have you ever thought about your skin color? I bet not many of you have thought about the skin color. And he said, you know, every day I'm being made to think about it. Even if I check in at the reception, I might be a 7-time world champion, or back then as world champion. I can still see it. And then he said, how would you feel, because he speaks so much about diversity in the paddock, how would you feel if you would enter the paddock and you would be the only white person? They're getting faster now, more revs.
It's all right, they can hear you. I've just been given a thumbs up.
Yeah, so you're entering the paddock and you're the only white person. I said, well, that would be weird. So I can much more relate to what he means. And we have really worked hard in the organization to be more diverse, but not only because we want to achieve some kind of, doing good. It's because I truly believe that it brings performance. It has helped me in my life to have a wider perspective on seeing lots about other religions and cultures. And I think that if we can hire people that are different, that are not the typical Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard people, but we look at universities from North London that are less privileged, we will find people that are very determined, that bring us different angles of looking at things, and that's eventually going to make us faster.
Is this something that you're actively encouraging throughout the whole organization, is to look from a wider range of potential employees? Or is it just the engineering team that you think that you'll get those bespoke opinions?
So obviously, let's say the initial impulse came from Lewis, and that is something which we run with. I'm very lucky. I have so many really good and talented people in the organization that carry the ball once we define the key objectives. And what I'm trying to do is, maybe it's funny to hear in the context of the current Formula One event, but I take it with a Spice Girls song. I tell you what I really, really want. And I tell them what I really, really want, and they just run with it and deliver.
Changing gears a little, you're married to a highly successful and super competitive and motivated woman, Susie Wolff. How is the dynamic between the two of you, having another race driver alongside you as a partner for life?
So when I met Susie, I started earlier. When I was a racing driver, and I'm 10 years older than she was, when I was driving in my second career, so in prototypes and GT cars, I was in Donington for a World Championship prototype race, and I heard there's a 18 or 19-year-old girl, Susie Stoddard, that was racing Formula Renault, and just ended up on the podium with Lewis Hamilton, who was one of the most, let's say, ambitious young drivers. And then I didn't hear about her anymore. And many years later, when she was already a professional in touring cars driving for Mercedes, I met her again. And all her life she had to fight, the headwind about being a girl in a racing car. When she qualified for the karting world championships, the boys didn't want her to go with them with the flag around the track because they found it embarrassing. And she's been a trailblazer in all of these things. She ran a Formula E team and finished second in the World Championship. She was the last woman to race on an official weekend in an official weekend in a Formula One car. And today she heads Formula One Academy, which is the series that runs young females, and with the aim of bringing maybe one or two into Formula One. And she does that with an iron grip, sometimes frightening for me. But also with a lot of compassion.
Do you find inspiration from what she's doing in her own life outside of the family unit that you have?
Yes, a lot, because she's a fantastic wife. She's a good mother to our 6-year-old. She's a great stepmother to our much older kids, and she just focuses so much on her business, and she's somehow able to juggle all of this and makes it possible for me to spend my time here in F1 in Australia, whilst she at the same time is not working today, but she's karting with our 6-year-old somewhere in Italy.
When you're socializing together, perhaps a round of tennis, are you incredibly competitive against each other, or is this just a bit of banter between the two of you, knowing that you're both so competitive?
Yeah, we are quite competitive. And, I mean, for example, when we're on holiday, we stop playing tennis with each other. From the, let's say, ability level, it's dumb and dumber playing against each other. But when a ball flies and I think it's out, I'm shouting, "It's out!" And she said, "That wasn't out." Anyway, cheaters never win, so it's getting quite intense. The same on go-karting. We were karting every weekend together, and she was always 2 seconds faster. So I decided to put 20 kilograms of ballast in her cart without telling her. She was still 2 seconds faster. And then I got myself like these super Italian qualifying tires. The so-called Red Vega, they stick for 1 lap. So secretly I got myself these tires. The guy who ran our cart said, they are on the cart. Don't tell her. You have 1 lap with this mega grip. You better make it fly. Put the sticky tires on, 2 seconds slower. So I've given up racing cars against her.
Lewis tells a story last night that you were in the snow in Sweden. He said she kind of embarrassed a whole lot of drivers up there a few years ago driving AMGs in Sweden.
Yeah, because we have so much, in a way, prejudices, or how can you say that? You know, she's a petite blonde. When you look at her first sight, and you wouldn't think that she was driving a Formula One car very competitively, and then you put her in a car, and all that skill comes out. And even today, our son, when he's driving his kart, she sometimes jumps in the cart and coaches him and drives, and he's always surprised that actually mommy can drive go-karts. And yeah, I'm very proud of that.
Do you follow any other sports religiously?
If she follows my sport, or
Oh no. Do you follow sport in general? You know, do you follow football or any of the other professional sports around the world?
not religiously, but I like the honesty of sports. You know, if there is a stopwatch or a score, that's really what I enjoy. Yesterday I watched, you call it footy, Australian football is mega, and lots of other sports.
The reason for my question is, do you think Formula One can learn from other sporting industries? Is there something that we can take from EPL or from tennis or from football that will enhance the experience for the teams, for the drivers, and for the guests who watch Formula One?
Absolutely. I mean, we need to. I'm a traditionalist. We should stay with what has really worked in Formula One. I'm not so keen on Saturday races, but I accept that we need to look at all the variants of formats. There's so much we learn. When I go to an American football game or an NBA game, or look at skiing, there's always something which is different to what we do, and I try to learn.
You're a car fanatic. You love your cars. You've been famously photographed in Monaco in a range of beautiful cars. What's your favorite daily road car?
Well, when I was young, I was a lot into only modern cars. I felt who would drive old cars, and that somehow changed in my late 40s. You start to find the love for the great engineering that happened, and I sold all the cars that I had and just kept the Mercedeses, and I loved the Gullwing and the 300 SL Roadster, and I drive them around, enjoyed it, and the only other modern car that I got myself is a Project One. But in Monaco, you know, there's not really long to where you can go. You go from the house to the restaurant, it's around the corner. You could also take an electric scooter. So sometimes we take them out.
You must be nervous handing the keys to valet every time you go to those restaurants.
No, that's actually quite fun of it, no? You put them the key and say, just park the car.
Is there something you'd like to have in your garage? Something that, you know, you're quite a minimalist from a car enthusiast point of view with just a handful. Is there something you would like to have at some point in time?
You always need to have dreams, and on car-specific topics, I'm really so much into the classic Mercedeses, and there's a few on that are difficult to get. You know, I don't know if you followed the Uhlenhaut Coupe,
Of course.
which was sold for $140 million. I'd like to have one of these. I asked the CEO of Mercedes whether he could sell me one for a good price. They said no.
A team bonus, perhaps. Look,
Yeah, for a good championship.
looking forward to the championship and this year, what can our guests here in the AMG Lounge expect from the performance of the car? It's been a challenging first couple of races by the admission of George and Lewis last night. What's a realistic expectation, and how's the development of the car for the rest of this year planned?
Yeah, so we were very successful over many years. We won 8 consecutive World Championships, but that's the past. You know, nobody's interested. And then the regulation changed into ground effect cars, so where most of the downforce, the suction happens through the floors. And we kind of didn't get that properly. Year 1, year 2, our wind tunnel data and our simulations simply didn't correlate what the drivers felt on track. So even now, the first two races of the season, our sensors and loads on the suspension tell us this car should have 100 more points of downforce. But we can't see that. So there's something which we need to change in the way we analyze those data, the way it functioned over 10 years, but not with these regulations. But this car is a much nicer platform than in the previous years. There's lots of goodness. It's just the high-speed corners that we are lacking performance that bit us in the last few races. So we watch the space, because in FP1 we are going to try 2 different floor configurations. One that should be much better, because on the first day of testing, we put this floor we are going to run now, we put it on the car, and the driver said the car is mega. Then we put Evolution 1, the driver said it's catastrophic. But obviously, it's not that simple. So we're putting the Evolution, the launch floor now on and see what it does, and hopefully through the weekend we can get better.
How do you decide which driver gets the parts? Is it one for every second weekend, or is it rock, paper, scissors? How do you or the engineering team choose that?
Well, the rock, paper, scissors is already difficult with the kids, so it wouldn't. No, I would never bring only one part. If we're having only one development part for the race, I'll test it on the Friday, but I take it off. I always want the 2 drivers to have exactly the same specifications of car, because it's just unfair. I don't want to start a game of, you're having the update here and I'm going to have it next time, because then there's always explanation why it wasn't good or the lap time wasn't there.
Yeah, and you don't want the drivers competing over the parts or calling favors and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. We're always producing 2.
Well, we really appreciate you spending so much time with us and being so honest and opinionated with us for the championship. So, ladies and gentlemen, would you please put your hands together for Mr. Toto Wolff, and good luck for the weekend.